Hello, hello. Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Pat Broadus, and this is the Missouri Job Center's workshop on how to take care of, or rather how to participate in a virtual interview. So thank you for joining us this morning. Now, a couple of quick house cleaning items I want to mention to you. We're going to be together today for about 60 minutes. So during the first 50 minutes, I'm going to deliver the presentation. And during the last 10 minutes, I'm going to open that up to you for questions. However, if you have any questions beforehand, please feel free. Look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see 3 buttons. One of them should be a Q&A button. And with that being said, hit that Q&A button whenever you have a question. So whenever there's a moment, and because a lot of times we might have questions and we're afraid that we might forget them during the course of the presentation. And so what you want to do is just go ahead and still ask that question. And even though it's beforehand, or even before we get to that particular point, I'll still be able to answer your questions for you. I'll just try to find that particular right spot. Please, like I said, if you have questions or anything, hit that Q&A button. That way, when you want to send me a message or so, I'll be able to see it that way. So by hitting that Q&A, I hope everybody can hear me. I hope everybody's ready. Again, thank you for joining me here today. And let's get ready to go on ahead and get started, shall we? Let's go on ahead and get this open for you. Now, today we are going to be talking about, obviously, how to deal with virtual interviews, how to conduct virtual interviews, but also we're going to be looking at how you can take this same information and utilize it for when you are participating in an online hiring event. So again, look at this agenda. This is what we're going to do. We're going to kind of, first of all, talk about the difference between virtual interviews and in-person interviews. Then we're going to hit these 3 things, and I like to call them my 3 checks. Checking your connection, checking your surroundings, and then checking yourself. So those are the 3 key elements that we're going to be discussing today. And then we're going to talk about wrapping up in terms of how you should follow up regarding virtual interviews. All right? So once again, before we get started, if you have a question, comment, go ahead, hit that Q&A. That way it sends me a message and I'll know exactly what it is that you would like for me to address. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Now, we need to look at this, the difference between virtual interviews and in-person interviews. And so let me just ask you this. What do you think would be the major difference between the two? I'm going to give you a couple of moments there. This is not a quiz or anything, but just want to give you a moment to think about that for a second. Understand this. A virtual interview is not new. Obviously, everyone is going to the virtual interviews now because of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are experiencing at this time. However, virtual interviews are not new. However, they are becoming the norm now due to the era that we are in. Regardless of whether you are doing a virtual interview or an in-person interview, you are still going to have to prepare. So don't get to the point to where you think you can be lax or you can relax or you don't necessarily have to prepare as much. You are still going to have to do the preparation for a virtual interview, just as you would prepare for an in-person interview. So we want to make certain that we don't get that, we don't forget that particular fact. Remember, again, just as an in-person interview, you are to be professional, you are to become prepared, you are to do your research. You're going to do the same with a virtual interview, okay? So it's still a professional moment, you're still going to be prepared, and you still need to do your research. So let's go into the first check. Like I told you, we've got to have 3 checks that I'm going to want you to do. The first of all is to check your connection and your equipment. Think about what type of equipment are you going to be using during the course of this virtual interview, or like I said, a virtual hiring event or a virtual job fair. What are you going to be using? Are you going to be using your phone? Are you going to be using an iPad? Are you going to be on a laptop? Are you going to be on a desktop, etc.? What type of equipment are you using? And regardless of what type of equipment that you are using, you want to make certain that you have a strong connection, because again, you don't want to get cut off or experience any type of technical difficulties. Make certain you have a strong internet connection. Make sure if something is running on a battery, make sure you have strong battery life. Make certain that you plug it up, charge it, etc. Because there's nothing worse than if you are engaging in a good conversation with the recruiter during the course of an interview, and all of a sudden you start to experience some type of technical difficulty, some types of glitches. The screen is starting to freeze, or your audio goes in and out. So of course you don't want to do that. So that's why it's definitely pertinent that you check your equipment and check your connection. So for example, if you're in your home and you're on your laptop or your computer, but you're not certain about the strength of your connection, or maybe someone else might be wanting to play a video game, somebody else is going to want to be opening up a lot of pages somewhere else, etc. You want to make certain that if you are prone to a bad connection, that you might have other people in the house just hold off for a little bit so everyone does not drain the connection. So someone's upstairs doing this, someone's in the basement doing that, someone is somewhere else doing that. So again, you don't want to have that strain on your connection. Also, one of the things that I want to tell you is one of the things you might want to consider is perhaps not necessarily using a phone. Now, if a phone is all you have, then of course you definitely need to utilize that. But if you have a choice, then maybe you could use your laptop or your computer as opposed to your phone, simply because sometimes when you are trying to use your phone, then, and if you, hopefully you can see me do this, if you're using your phone, sometimes it can be prone to a bad connection, because how many times have we had to go to a window to make certain we've got a strong connection? And also, if you are trying to hold your phone, then you can be prone to having that shaky screen syndrome, as I said. Now, there are those elements that you can buy, or there are different tools that you can buy. There's a 3-prong little tool thing that I've seen where you can actually prop up your phone, and then that would be fine. But also, one of the reasons why I said that you might want to use a laptop or other devices, simply because if you have to navigate between the screen, let's see a recruiter is talking to you about your resume, or they're saying, hey, can you email me a copy of your resume very quickly right now? It might be difficult to navigate between screens on a phone, as opposed to if you're on a laptop or iPad or something of that nature. So again, make certain that you have that strong connection. Everything is charged. Close out other screens as well, because again, you don't want things to drain on your connection, etc. Okay? Now, once you've looked at that, you've got everything straight, you know what you're going to be using, you understand the strength of your internet connection or your Wi-Fi connection, etc. What type of platform are you going to be utilizing during the course of this interview, during the course of this job fair? Now, generally speaking, or the most prominent platforms that are being utilized today are Zoom as well as WebEx. Now, there are also other platforms as well, such as Google Meet. And what I've done right now, you can see on the screen, in terms of understanding, learning a little bit more about how these platforms work, I've given you those particular websites. So go ahead, take a screenshot if you need to, because this is where it's going to tell you how you can join a meeting. Now, what we're meeting on right now, the platform that we're utilizing is Zoom. And so when you are registering for this particular workshop, and generally that's how it's going to proceed when you are participating in a job fair or online hiring event, you're going to receive an invitation, and generally as the recipient or as the participant in that particular job fair or in that hiring, in that interview, you're going to receive an invitation. And so all you really have to do is click on the link. The hard part is already set up and done by the company, so you don't necessarily need to worry about how you're going to set this up, etc., so far as what you're going to do and the behind the scenes, because generally for you, all you're going to be doing is getting an email from the recruiter what times are good for you. Let's set this up, and then you're going to get the invitation. So let's look at that. Like I said, Zoom and WebEx are the two prominent platforms that are being utilized today. So let's do this for just a second. So let me show you this. So remember, for example, with this invitation, you will receive an invitation from that particular employer in an email. And you see here, this is an example, I think probably similar to the email that you received from us regarding this particular workshop. And you will be given a link. Now, sometimes you might have a password to that link, etc. But this is what's going to occur, and you are just simply going to click on that. And again, as the person who's being interviewed, as the interviewee, then this is all you're going to have to worry about, making certain that you have that strong connection, and then just simply clicking on this link, and then that would open up the screen for you. Okay? So now, other things that I want to tell you about in terms of checking your connection and your equipment. We're going to go a little bit further with it. So we talked about checking your connection, and we talked about generally how you log on. And if you have a question, let me just go back for just a moment, because I want to make certain that everyone understands this. Again, we have various platforms. Each one is a little bit different, but generally speaking, you will receive some type of email, and then you just click on that link. And these particular sites that I've given you is information regarding how you can join a Zoom meeting, how can you join a WebEx meeting, how can you join a Google meeting, because again, each company, organization is different, and they're going to tell you which platform. And sometimes they even have their own company platforms that they're going to want you to utilize. And the reason why I'm bringing this out to you is sometimes you might even have to do a presentation depending upon the nature of your interview, the type of position that you're interviewing for. And it's good to become familiar with how you can use these particular platforms, particularly if you have to do a presentation and you have to show slides or something of that effect. So let's go on. Now, one of the things you always want to make certain that you're doing is that you can check your information, check your equipment, in other words. So you want to check your audio and you want to check your video. Make certain that you get to the platform, get to wherever you're going to be ahead of time, so you have opportunity to do that. So, excuse me. So make sure your microphone is working. Now, there are a variety of ways in which you can do this. You can do this through the video platform itself, and you can do it if you're looking on your computer. And if you have Windows, for example, you can click on the Windows icon. So let me show you how you do that. And again, this is why it's good, because if you need to have a backup plan, then you have that backup plan in place. So on the video platform, so let me show you this. If you want to check your audio, and again, we're utilizing Zoom because this is a platform that we are on right now. So if you're going to use the platform itself to check your audio, which you can, this is what you're going to do. When you get ready, when you go into Zoom, for example, you'll notice when you open Zoom, you will have a little I'm trying to find this here, the little icon here with the microphone. That is where you can click on the little arrow. If you click on the microphone itself, that's going to be your mute and your unmute button. So all you're going to be doing is muting and unmuting yourself. However, you will notice beside the little microphone, there's this little, if I can show you, this little arrow right here. That's what you're going to click on, and it's going to open up a window. And this is the window that it opens. And you can see here, select the microphone, select the speaker, etc. And this is where you can check your audio. It's going to allow you to do it. As a matter of fact, here in Zoom, if you look kind of closely, you'll see, where can I find it here? You see here, test speaker and microphone. That will give you the opportunity to see if you can hear. And sometimes you can use your computer. If you're sitting at a computer or laptop, you'll be able to use the speaker from your laptop, or if you are using headphones. This is why it is good to actually test your equipment ahead of time. Usually I have these headphones on and I look like Princess Leia from Star Wars, but wasn't working, so I'm now utilizing my speaker on my computer. So that's why it's good to get to your quiet spot, your space ahead of time, just to make certain that you check your equipment. Now, again, I was just showing you how you can check your equipment using the platform, for example. Now, I also want to show you how you can check your equipment without utilizing that platform. It's good to use the platform, but I just want to show you something else as well. So give me just a moment here to get out of this. We're going to hit that. Now, in terms of checking your audio on your computer, there's a way in which you can do that as well. I want to show you this. So you want to click on the Windows icon. In this little Windows icon, I hope I don't disconnect you here. In the bottom left-hand corner, and you go to your settings. Let's go here. Let's go here. Good, come on. All right. You go to the settings, and then you check on your system or your devices. Let's see, I don't know if you are seeing this. I don't think you can see this because actually I have two different screens, and so you're not able to see that. But let me go ahead and show you what you're going to do. So if you're on your computer, like I said, you're going to click on this Windows icon in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Then you're going to go to Settings. And like I said, it opened up a screen, but you can't see it because I have two different screens. But then you go to Settings, and then you click on System, and then you click on Sound. That will allow you to check your audio. Okay, like I said, I see a few of you are raising your hand. That's fine. But what I need you to do, if you have a question for me, go ahead and hit that Q&A button and then type it in, because that's the only way I'm going to actually be able to address your question. I need to see your question. Okay, so that's a way in which you are going to be able to check your sound. Now, if you're using something like earphones, earbuds, headphones, you again want to make certain that those work. Make certain that they're charged. One time I was actually in the middle of one of these presentations, and my headphones were low because I have a little lady that comes on, power off, power on, power low. And anyway, during the course of one of my presentations, my headphones cut off because I had not charged them the night before. So once again, I want to tell you these things so that you don't end up with some of the same mistakes I have. So make certain, whether you're using earbuds, headphones, etc., make certain that those things are charged, they're ready to go. And again, if you have a Bluetooth device, make certain that that Bluetooth device has synced and connected to your computer. So again, you don't have to worry about having any type of audio troubles during the time that you are in the moment of your virtual interview or your virtual hiring event. Okay, so oh, how you set backgrounds. I'm assuming you're also talking about the virtual background. So for example, I have a virtual background because obviously I'm not sitting out in the parking lot in front of the Missouri Job Center. So I have a green screen. Now, generally speaking, if you want to set or change a different background, you would have to have a green screen, because a green screen allows it to just be a little bit clearer, a little bit better than if you don't have a green screen. But there is a way in which you do that as well. Let me talk about the video, and then I'm going to get back to the green screen and the background for you. So you want to, again, we're talking about checking your equipment, checking your connection. So we've talked about the audio. Now we want to talk about checking your video. So you can do this again on the platform, just like we did it previously, checking your video, and also you can check it on your computer. Let me show you how to check it on your platform. So utilizing Zoom, which is what we're doing now, one way that you can do this is sit down, obviously, before your interview time. And what you can do, let me show you this. We've done audio. Let's go here. Do this. All right. When you open up the window for Zoom, when you open up that platform, you'll get this particular screen, whether you are sitting down at a laptop or whether you are on your phone. One of the things that you can do is click on New Meeting. Again, this is why it's so helpful to practice things beforehand. I was trying to show this once again in another workshop, and I connected, but again, I'm working on the same Zoom connection, so I ended up disconnecting my audience and had to reconnect with them because I was doing it on my phone and I was trying to show them on my phone. So I was smart this time. I took a picture. So what you want to do is click on New Meeting, and this will allow you to see what the interviewer or the recruiter is going to be seeing. So you will get a chance, and that's what I do each time before I get ready to sit down and present these workshops to you. I turn on a new meeting, and that way I can see what you are seeing. So if something's off to the side, if there's something in the background that shouldn't be in the background, I can see it. So I suggest you do the same thing. Turn on your computer, click on New Meeting, and that way you get a chance to see what the interviewer is saying. So if you don't like the way your clothes are looking, if you don't like the way your eyeglasses look, if you don't like the way you look with your headphones on, whatever, you get a chance to see what the interviewer is saying. And if things are not tilted the correct way, if you're looking too much at the top of your head, if you're looking too much up your nose, etc., you get a chance to check that out and fix that before you actually start to participate in the interview itself. Okay, and then let's exit here. And then once again, there's a way in which you can check your video connection on your computer. There is a camera app on your computer. And all you do is simply, once again, you want to go to this Windows icon, and then you want to click on the camera icon. Let's see, if I do this, and you see here, you see that camera icon? That's where you can also check. So if you don't have a chance to check on it through the Zoom platform or whatever platform you're utilizing, you can come to your computer, like I said, hit on that Windows, click on that Windows icon, and then come right here to camera, click on that. I'm not going to do that because Lord knows what'll happen right now since we're having this presentation. And then that way you get a chance to see what, again, the interviewer is going to see, or in other words, how is the interviewer going to be viewing you? Okay, so let me click out of here. All right, so in terms of your background, now, the way I have set this background is with the Zoom platform. Let's see, with the Zoom platform, what I've done, if you go to, all right, actually, when you go into Zoom, you will see, let's see, that says security participants. Chat share screen. If you look at here, remember where I was showing you where you see the microphone? There are two things. You see a microphone, and then you see the little icon for the video camera. That's where you can check and change your background. So just as you click on the little arrow that's beside the microphone where it says mute, you click on that little arrow where it says video. All right, and that is going to allow you to change your screen or change your virtual background. Now, the way you have to do that is actually you conduct a particular search. Let's say you do a Google search for a background, let's say St. Louis skyline or something like that, or bookcases, coffee shop, etc. You have to find something like that online. Then you take a picture of that, or rather you save that to your computer and you save it in your pictures folder on your computer. Then you will go here to where I showed you the video icon here. And what you're going to do when you go into Zoom is going to talk about change. It's going to give you a variety of backgrounds with Zoom. And then it's going to say that you can either change a background or add a background or another background, something of that sort. And then you're going to upload the picture that you've saved on your hard drive, add that, and then you'll be able to change background. So when you get here and it says to change background, it's going to give you a variety of the ones that Zoom already has, and then the ones that you have to download or upload, whichever one it is, and then you'll be able to click and select on the background that you want. Okay, let me see. Let me just show you, see if I can actually do this as well, just to give you an example. So I'm looking at my screen now, and again, when you look at that particular arrow by the camera, there are three things I see: choose virtual background and video settings. So I'm going to click on choose virtual background. Hopefully I shouldn't lose you. Choose virtual background. And right now, I am going to choose a background that I have already uploaded to my settings in Zoom. So we're going to do this. I'm going to show you another one here. As you see now, I've changed backgrounds. And again, this is a background that I've uploaded. And once again, let me show you another one. So let's say I want to look a little, let's say I want to look a little bit more studious, I guess. So here's a bookcase background. And now I'm going to come back to the one here because again, we are the Missouri Job Center. So I hope that helps to answer your question. Let's see, we have another one. Let's see, here's another good question. Let's see, I was wondering if you can drag the settings window that opened up on the other screen and drag it over to the monitor that Zoom is on. So, the settings. Oh, in terms of how to bring this so that you can see it. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, I just wanted to make certain that I don't lose you or anything right now because I would hate to do that. But more than likely, yes, I can drag some other things. Let's see, the Zoom. I don't know if are you guys seeing something new or not? I'll tell you what, let me just try it again. Let me just try something else a little bit later because I want to make certain that we get through all of the information that I want to share with you. But thank you so much for about that because I think I would be able to drag something over to the other screen. So let's continue here. All right, so okay. So we've talked about checking your equipment. We've talked about checking your connection, making certain that's all together, making sure you check your audio and your video. Now we're going to talk about the second check. That is checking your surroundings, okay? Now, this is a big deal. Now, obviously, you're going to hear from myself or you're going to hear from other individuals as well. There's the usual suspects, obviously, in terms of checking your surroundings, making sure that the dogs and the cats aren't around you. You don't want to have a conversation going on with the recruiter and all of a sudden your cat jumps up on the back of your chair and the cat is walking off, making certain the dogs aren't around, obviously the kids, etc. Those are the same things that you want to make certain that you don't have any distractions going on around you. You want to make certain that you're in a quiet space, a quiet area. So again, even if something is going on, now, obviously, if the fire alarm is going off, you might have to take a break then. Or I actually had one person tell me about how she was conducting an interview and she actually went into labor. That would be really interesting and intriguing. So obviously, other than going into labor or having a fire alarm, generally you should be able to get your kids and the pets, etc. away. Hopefully, you have a spot where you can have a quiet area to yourself. Okay. So with that being said, you also want to take into account your staging, all right? So we talked about the usual, you're going to hear that, but what is the environment that you are in terms of what is the recruiter going to see when he or she is interviewing you? Now, you want to make certain that your surroundings is clean, it's clutter-free, or at least that part that the camera sees. Now, if this behind the camera is clutter, you've got boxes, etc., they don't need to know that. It's never been, and they won't know that, okay? You want to make certain that whatever that camera is seeing is clear, it's free of clutter, particularly if you don't have a virtual background that you can utilize. So as you see here, I've got two pictures. I wish my office looked like that. I wish I had an office that looked like that. That's just a dream there for me. Just give me a moment. Okay, so you want to make certain that you have a clean environment. Does your environment look like this one? Or does it look like this one? Okay, so again, regardless of whether you have a real background or a virtual background, what is going on. Make certain that it's looking professional, because again, you're participating in an interview. So you want to give that air of professionalism, because again, we're talking about perceptions as well. If I am a recruiter and if I'm interviewing you and then I see all kinds of things behind you, I see clutter behind you, maybe I see something offensive, maybe you don't think it's offensive, but maybe it's an offensive poster, maybe you want something, a t-shirt, I don't know. But again, you want to make certain that it's professional, and again, a clean background, clutter free, because again, these are impressions, and again, we are talking about professionalism. You would not generally go into an interview where, even if you were doing an in-person interview, where you are in an office that's probably cluttered, etc. But you, again, want to give that impression that you're a professional person, that you are indeed taking this interview seriously. And that's why you want to make certain that this is set, because again, perceptions matter, okay? Perceptions matter. Now, let's talk about your lighting in terms of how does that work. Now, with lighting, you want to make certain that you don't have just an overhead light, because again, that can cast shadows. You want to make certain you don't have another light. I wish I had a flashlight so I could just kind of show this to you in terms of how that will cast shadows. Now, you generally want, if you're able to have natural light, then you want to be able to do that. Now, you don't want to be sitting in front of a window. Number one, that's going to cause for quite a few distractions regarding the lighting, because the lighting is not going to look right on your face. And also, there might be something going on outside your window, obviously, that you can't control. That's going to be a distraction. The recruiter is going to be paying more attention to what's going on outside your window as opposed to you. So you want to make certain that you aren't sitting in front of a window. But for example, right now I am sitting beside a window, so you can have a window to your side. Now that is fine. Also, what you generally want to make certain is that it's balanced. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to check a lot, but what I have, and you can't quite see it, I also have, I'm going to try to do this so that you guys can see it without knocking myself in the head, but I also have another light. Now, if you have another light, I have a circle light. Let's see if you can see this. Don't know if you can see it or not, but anyway, I have a circular light. And depending upon how bright the light is coming from the window on one side, then I will put this light on my side to try to balance out the lighting. And another thing, what you really want to make certain is that your lighting, oh, hope that didn't look crazy. Once again, you got to make sure what's going on with the video, that your lighting is in front of you, because generally that's going to be better when you have your light in front of you. Okay, now if you don't have a circular light, don't think that you have to run out and go buy one. One of the things that you can do is also get a table lamp, but because a table lamp will sometimes give harsh light, you can put just a light, a little tissue over that light to diffuse that light somewhat. Okay, so this is the reason why I want to talk to you a little bit about lighting, and also particularly for us as African Americans, or those of us who are African Americans, we have to watch how the lighting impacts us, because sometimes we can be very dark and then just see our eyes, or just see very certain part of our face. So we also have to be very concerned about lighting as well. Okay, so now we've talked about those things, got a few other things that I want to address with you. So let's go into, and if there are no questions about anything thus far, let's go in here to our next one. So we talked about checking your equipment. We're talking about checking your surroundings. We've discussed that. Now, let's talk about checking yourself. What does that mean? Checking yourself, I like to emphasize this because, again, we kind of know about the others, and I hope I gave you some insight regarding those other elements, checking your equipment, etc. But in terms of checking yourself, we kind of have to, we sometimes overlook that. We think about, okay, how am I going to look visually? But there's preparation that goes into checking yourself. Just like you prep and check your equipment beforehand, check yourself beforehand. Again, an online or a virtual interview is just as pertinent, just as important as an in-person interview. When you are contacted, let's say we weren't even worrying about COVID-19 right now. So let's say you were contacted about an interview. We want you to come in. What is something that you are going to do beforehand? You are going to conduct your research. You are going to prep. And you are going to do the same thing for a virtual interview or for a virtual job fair. So you want to do your research. Why? Research shows recruiters that you are interested and that you did your homework and that you're knowledgeable about the company and the industry and that particular position. So you want to prepare and do your research ahead of time. So you are either going to be preparing and doing research regarding that particular industry, that particular company, position, or if it's a hiring event, you want to see what type of companies are going to be represented at this particular hiring event. Is this a hiring event that's only focusing on one particular industry, such as just the healthcare industry, just the transportation industry? Or is this a hiring event that's going to have multiple industries? And is the industry that you're interested in going to be represented at this particular hiring event? Some hiring events will allow you to see which companies are going to be participating and also what positions are going to be available at that particular company. And if so, you can see which particular positions you would want to interview for or interact with the representative, because sometimes they'll have you in break rooms if it's a obviously a visual or online hiring event. So these are the things that you need to research and do ahead of time. Now, let's talk about getting that resume together, okay? Your resume and your job ad. Always have that with you. Just as someone would call you on the telephone, sometimes when you have screening interviews on the telephone, you want to make certain that you have your resume and you have that job description available as well, so that you can address what the recruiter is looking for in that job ad and state how you meet that particular need. Okay, so you want to make certain that you have that. Also, you want to make certain that you have your resume on your desktop just in case you need to send them one. They might have one, but maybe you did some sort of updating, or they might say, oh, I misplaced it. Can you send it to me? Whatever. You want to make certain also that you have it readily available on your desktop so that you can easily just, while you're having the interview, I've just sent it to you, Mr. Jones. So again, you want to make certain that you have that in hand as well. Now, also want to tell you about this, the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch you've heard before. That's your 30-second elevator pitch, job speech, whatever. Make certain that you also have that together, because again, this is still an interview. And whether it's a screening interview or it's gone a little bit further and you've gone further than you've gone past the screening interview, people are still going to want to know, who are you? What do you bring to this organization? What would I be missing if I don't hire you or I don't bring you on to be a part of this organization? So that's why you want to make certain you get that elevator pitch together. And remember again, that elevator pitch is that who are you, or tell me about yourself question. And remember, this is not personal, this is professional. So they don't want to hear, I'm from St. Louis, I've got 3 kids, 2 dogs, 1 cat, and a mortgage, and blah, blah, blah. They don't care about that. They want to know about you professionally. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? I'm a talent acquisition specialist with over 10 years of experience within the pharmaceutical industry, hiring IT professionals or IT managers to connect people with the right jobs and the right opportunities. Something like that. So you see where I'm going with that. Get that 30 seconds pitch together. You want to have that. Also, keep this in mind. You want to get your stories together. Each and every one of us has stories from some type of work experience. You've got stories in terms of perhaps how you handled a conflict, how you mediated something, in terms of maybe how you thought of how you envisioned a project and brought it to life, you brought it to fruition. at the organization. Maybe you started or you initiated some type of training and development, orientation program, etc. Or you want to talk about how you served, for particularly, let's say in customer service, how you were able to handle a customer's questions, how you were able to get them to the right person. Maybe you were not the specialist on this, but you were able to get someone to the right department, and that helped to solve their problem. Get your stories together. Okay, and this is the same thing that you would be doing in person. But again, that's why I say it's not about being lax. It's not about, oh, okay, good, I'm home, etc. We're gonna get to that get dressed part in just a minute. But again, this is a professional interview. Yes, you may be at home, but this is still showing your professionalism, and it's talking about what you bring. So get that story, or get those stories together. Have questions. You should always have questions when you are being interviewed, because again, you are trying to show the recruiter that you are interested, you are intrigued, etc. So make certain that you ask questions, that you have questions to ask. Practice. Here's another thing, practice. If you need to, remember how I showed you how you can get on and use the video on either your computer, or you can use the video through the platform that you're going to be utilizing when you are being interviewed virtually. Turn that on. Look at yourself, listen to yourself, see how you are able to interact with the camera. How do you position yourself, how you're seated. And again, listen to yourself, because we need to listen to ourselves when we are actually talking. Sometimes we need to slow down. Sometimes when we're practicing interviews, we have a tendency to repeat ourselves. So again, practice. Now, let's get to something else here, and that is getting dressed, okay? Getting dressed, and I want to talk, I'm getting to the camera, I'm jumping ahead of myself, so you don't want to do that. Get dressed. Yes, even though you're at home and you might be tempted to have your slippers on and your house shoes and the bottom part of your pajamas, no, get fully dressed, all right? Because there are a variety of things that happen when you get fully dressed. Number one, you don't know if you might have to step away for a moment or something like that from the camera. And if so, and if you have to reach for something, remember how I had to reach across? Lord knows, I hope I didn't flash anyone and show anything inappropriate. But anyway, if you have to step up, move, etc., you want people to be able to see that, you know, you have your pants on. So you don't want to be caught with your pants down. So you want to make certain that you get dressed. And also think about how your body reacts as well. When you are in your pajamas, when you're in those, sweatpants, etc., your body has a tendency to kind of relax, and you know this. However, when you are dressed professionally, your body knows that I'm participating in something here that's important. It's not quite so lax. So if you need to put on that favorite dress, ladies, guys, if you need to put on those that favorite shirt, etc., that's fine. Actually, I was just on LinkedIn yesterday, and now they're talking about, does everyone have their Zoom shirt? In other words, what is that go-to shirt that you have to get ready so that you can participate in an interview? So make certain you have your Zoom shirt ready. Or ladies, make certain you have that Zoom dress ready, that nice dress you can boom, throw on like this and put your necklace on, and you're ready to go. So you want to get dressed. Make certain, again, that you get dressed from head to toe. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, let's get into talking about nonverbals. Now, let's just go on ahead and get into the camera thing, all right? When you are getting ready to participate in an online interview or virtual hiring event, you want to make certain that the camera is at your eye level. You don't want to be looking down, and that's what occurs sometimes with people, particularly if they're using the phone. If you're using your phone, you might look down like this, and then, of course, we're looking up at your nose, and you've been in those particular types. Perhaps you've been in webinars or workshops, and you've seen either you only see the top half of someone and you see most of their ceiling, or you might see something where you're looking at the top of their head or you're looking up the nose, etc. That's why you want to make certain that you're looking eye level at the camera. For example, if you have a laptop and your laptop is sitting a little bit lower, then one of the things you might want to do is prep or put your laptop on a couple of books to make certain that you're more so at eye level. Again, when you're playing and you're getting ready to participate in an interview, turn on that video, adjust your screen to see exactly what your interviewer is going to be seeing. And another thing, we have a tendency to look at the screen because we're thinking that we're looking at the person. However, what we need to concentrate on is looking at that camera, looking at that little dot, because again, that's where you are connecting with me. When I am looking at you and giving you direct contact is through that camera. And what am I communicating to you? Remember, communication is key. If I am the interviewee, then I am showing you as the recruiter that I'm interested in what you have to say. I am intrigued. I am engaged. I am involved in this interview. So that's what occurs. Now, again, there are times when you're going to have to look away, etc., glance, but you want to come back and you want to look at the camera because, again, it shows your interest. It shows your enthusiasm. All right. So again, play around with that position. You might need to put your, like I said, laptop on some books a little bit higher, but you want to make certain that your camera is not too low and it's looking up at you, and your camera is not too high where you're looking up at the camera. All right. So you want to make certain about that. Also, you want to make certain that you smile. Now, we're not talking about a big cheesy smile, but we're talking about, again, looking like you're pleasant, because remember, recruiters, if they are good recruiters, if they're seasoned recruiters, they're going to be able to pick up on your nonverbals as well. They're looking to see not only your immediate qualifications so far as your skills, your education, etc., but do you seem like you're enjoying this interview? Do you seem as though you want this particular job? Also, are you confident in what it is that you're saying? So again, remember what is coming across, because if I'm saying, well, I don't know, that's not giving me anything good as the recruiter in terms of what I'm picking up from you. Okay, so I need to see that you're enthused, you're engaged, etc. And when you smile, again, smiling allows you to kind of slow things down, and of course, smiling is just also giving a better, it gives a better vibe, obviously, than if you're sitting there frowning, looking like you're absolutely hating and detesting being in the interview. Okay, think about nervous behaviors and gestures as I have here. Facial expressions, remember the camera is always on. So if you're thinking that even if you're in a group, let's say you are in a hiring event and you are in a room, remember, just because someone may not necessarily be talking to you at that moment, you are still in a group and your camera is still on. So if you need to, then maybe you pause that video, you stop that video if you need to blow your nose, if you need to do something like that, but you don't want to be doing that and doing all kinds of weird things. And remember, again, facial expressions. If someone asks you a question and you think it's remember, again, be aware of these facial expressions, be aware of your nonverbals, because again, this is also giving information to the recruiter, because again, he or she is looking at you and picking up on what it is that you are doing during the course of this particular interview. Now, we have a really great question here. Is the expectation to still wear a suit for a video interview, or is a more business casual attire appropriate? I think that's a really great question, and here's the thing. I think it also depends upon the particular organization. So remember, organizations have certain cultures. So if it's more so of a I guess if it's more so of a laid back, but there are certain types of organizations in which they are very business oriented, very strict. You kind of pick up on that. Then I would suggest, yes, wearing a suit for it. Or again, for if you just want to wear a very nice professional dress, for example. Because again, we're just talking about being professional. Obviously, if you're a woman, you don't want to show the girls. You don't want to show the girls, etc. So it depends upon the organization. And if you just don't want to you just want to make certain that you don't err on the side of whatever, then yes, go ahead and wear a professional suit. But again, it depends on the culture of that organization. If you think they're more so very strict, more so of those type of organization where it's more so the type that puts an emphasis on your career as opposed to family life, etc. And you pick those things up when you are talking to the individuals before they actually set up your interview. But so again, it depends on the organization. However, if you want to always err on the side of professionalism. If you're not sure, I'm not sure if this is too casual, I'm not sure, always err on the side of professionalism. Okay? Always do that. I hope that helped to answer your question. Now, we are just about at time, but a couple of other things I want to point out to you very quickly, and then we'll open it up to some more questions. Do not forget, just as you do with an in-person interview, you know, you have always send an email, a thank you email. Do that as well, because again, we're still talking about sealing the deal. We are still talking about getting this done so far as, once again, continuing your professionalism. All right. So with that being said, let's see, just a second here. So with that being said, I also want to tell you this. You can send a thank you card. Now, the 3 ways I learned from one of my colleagues regarding 3 things so far as do a follow-up: an email, thank you card, or a letter. Now, I would suggest definitely an email because you want to do that immediately. I think sending a thank you card is a very nice touch as well, because again, it serves to leave an impression in terms of, okay, wow, this person really enjoyed our conversation. And again, I think something about a thank you card leaves an impression. Now, if you go into a letter, first of all, I don't know how many folks are going to actually have the time to read your letter, because again, if I'm a recruiter and I'm not spending that much time anyway reading your I may not be reading a lot of cover letters, etc. I'm not sure if I'm going to read a thank you letter. And frankly, I'm not so sure that many folks are really going to write a thank you letter. Okay, so go ahead, send that thank you email. And it's a nice touch also to send a thank you card. Now, one of the things I want to say is the importance of a thank you card or the thank you. This is what I heard from a recruiter. A recruiter told me a story one time. She interviewed someone and the hiring manager really liked her and I think really wanted to bring her in, but the hiring manager asked, did this person send a thank you? Did they follow up? The recruiter said no. Person did not get the job, because again, that's also an impression. That's also sending a message. That's also stating that, hey, this is very that I'm a professional, I'm following up, and of course I don't want to say like I really want this job, but it shows a certain level of thoughtfulness. Okay, and with that particular hiring manager, he wanted to see something else. He wanted to see that thoughtfulness. And of course, that goes a long way as well. That's also key in setting a good, solid impression. Okay. Number 2, last couple of things I want to follow up on before we get into the questions. Don't overlook your references. Okay. A lot of times, we all know now you don't put references, for example, on a resume, but if people are going to be calling about you, make certain that you not only contact your references, but also let your references know what particular type of position you're going to be interviewing for. And then, of course, thank your references, okay? Kind of follow up with them to keep them in the loop, particularly if those are the individuals that you're going to continue to utilize as references. And lastly, remember again that the interview, whether it's in person or online like this, is a communicative process. So in other words, don't negate the fact that you are there for a purpose as well. Remember, communication is the sharing of information, and an interview particularly is for a purpose in terms of generally asking and answering of questions to gain information to make a decision. That's the actual definition of an interview. So remember that you are there for a purpose as well, not just to be interviewed, but you're interviewing the interviewer as well. So you need to make certain that you have questions, because you need to see, is this the type of organization that I want to work at? Is this where I want to be employed? Do I feel as though this is going to be the type of environment that I'm going to want to be in? So that's why it's also good for, remember again, be aware of what you bring to the situation. Know your worth and be confident in what it is that you have to share. And if that company, if that's a good fit for you and that's the company where you want to be. But if that company, that organization cannot see your worth, cannot see your value, then go on to another. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's not just one way. You have valid questions that you want to ask as well. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to stop because we've got just a few more moments and I want to make certain that I get to your questions. Do you have a recommendation on which way is the best way to send a thank you? Yes, you can always send an email. Okay, if nothing else, send an email. And of course, you'll generally know who you send your email to because you will have received that invitation to connect, etc. And there's going to always be some recruiter that's going to reach out to you and say, hey, so-and-so is going to want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. So you can always send an email. All right. And then you can always go on some type of social media page, etc., to find the address of the organization and then send them a thank you card from there. But always, yes, you can always send an email. And is it okay to send both an email and a card? Yes, it is okay to send both. You send the email first, because of course you want to make certain that you get that done and obviously that you don't forget. And then that thank you card is just a nice little touch because again, it's showing that you're being thoughtful. It's also showing that you're doing a little something extra. You're doing a little something more. And what also does that send? What type of impression does that make on the recruiter and the hiring manager? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think we are just about at the end of our time today. Just wanted to let you know, oh, we do have a couple more minutes. We're still basically at the end of our time. However, I want to let you know that you can find us on our social media feeds, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at STLOUISCOWFD. And you will find information regarding job postings there, some of our most recent information that we find, etc. And we're going to put it on those particular websites or on those particular social media feeds. So please do follow us. We are having workshops every Tuesday through Thursday. And I'm going to plug this Friday, we are having a special workshop regarding LinkedIn as well. I'm going to have a special co-host, Mr. Frank Alanese. So he is going to be here and he has a background in IT. So we have, again, workshops Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We do that all the time. And actually, we have another workshop coming up today at 11:30, just in case you want to join us. And that is going to be understanding the interview process. So we were talking about virtual interviews here. Now we're just going to be talking about interviews in general. Ladies and gentlemen, we are basically at the end of our time here today. I want to thank you for joining me. And again, we are here to assist you at the Missouri Job Center. So thank you so much for your attendance. And we hope to see you soon at another one of our workshops. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much. Oh, and if you want to look for the link for today's meeting, these webinars are always recorded, and then you should be able to go back to our social media feeds and find the link for our recording. So it's going to take a little while, so give it at least a day and you should be able to find the link for this recorded workshop on that social media feed, on one of our social media feeds. Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.